Well, hello, darling. So it's gym time. Let me know if you wanna hit the gym with me. Who wanna go to the gym with me? So I just wanted to make a quick video. So I've been seeing a lot of certain things on my feed, and one of the things that I've been seeing lately, besides the beautiful young brother Nolan Wells, I've been seeing, spiritual warfare, a lot of things about spirituality. And I've been seeing people talking about, gang stalking. And, I see things here and there. It seems as though a lot of it has the people who are talking about how they've had accounts of being victims of gang stalking, and people who are also making encouraging videos for those who are gang stalked, and those who are expressing the the negative effects that they have dealing with that. I've been seeing both. There's a lot of people who are very uplifting online. There's a lot of encouraging people, and then there's a lot of people who find freedom, and it is their therapy to be very vulnerable online. I think that any form of violence should be unacceptable, unless obviously, in all honesty, if it's something that has to be engaged in for your own defense, that's a whole different thing. But I don't rise and choose violence. Some people make that joke, oh, today I'm rising and I'm choosing violence. Or they'll say, today you woke up and you're choosing violence. Don't choose violence. Let's have tranquility. Let's have choose tranquility. But any form of violence is very much discouraged and frowned upon in my world. Gang stalking period, is a form of violence. And if you look up the definition of stalking, it talks about people who are monitoring spirits. It doesn't say that, but that's more so on the spiritual, but it talks about those who tend to have multiple personality disorders. They tend to have mental disorders, and they have issues with control, and they have many array of psychological issues, bipolarism, all of these different things. Now, I don't want to go too far into, the whole mental aspect, because I'm not a clinician. I'm just speaking on what the definition talks about. But, it says that, stalkers or gang stalkers, that stalking is a very violent thing. And then people, they engage in gang stalking or stalking in all walks of life. A lot of times it's with exes, romantic partners. It can be people's family. It could be people that people work with, ex-bosses. A lot of people have accounts of saying that people who talk about those who have been gang stalked, a lot of common things, one of the common underlying things that they say they have worked for certain agencies or the government, so prominent people who were probably in prominent or important people who were once or currently are in important positions, or people who people see gifts and talents and beautiful abilities, and on a spiritual level, these are people who are what we consider God's people, or God's children. They may be what their family or their parents or important people in their lives may have called them anointed, may have told them that they have certain spiritual gifts, that they know that they have certain gifts and talents, and they probably don't boast about their talents or abilities, or what some people may have certain levels of confidence. But I don't see too many people who have certain spiritual gifts or certain talents and gifts that were once very taboo, or way out there. They don't really brag about it. They kind of keep a lot of things to themselves, especially when we talk about like the rituals and the practices, the spiritual practices and the spiritual systems, the things that our ancestors engaged in, especially the women. A lot of times the women will go off and they will do works and practices and things, and they will do it in in the privacy of their own home, and only their girlfriends, the women, and only certain people knew what they were doing, and they kept it very silent to themselves and very quiet, tight knit, because it was only for a need to know, or for the people who could resonate, for them to know. So how is that connected to stalking or gang stalking? In ancient times, they used to shun, and they would shun and persecute witches, those who they felt had certain gifts that people didn't have, those that people were jealous of, people who they felt were powerful in different ways, and that can be in a male or female, in the divine masculine energy or the divine feminine energy, if you will. But I think that is very sad that people get online and they I think it's a very powerful thing and a very courageous thing for those of you who actually get online, and you can actually have the courage to tell people about the accounts of what you're experiencing. Because if you're trying to talk to someone who is not spiritually aware, someone who's not spiritually learned, or practices regularly, or not is very just someone who's not very spiritual, if you will, they will not understand what you're saying, especially because a lot of what they are given accounts of and talking about, it talks about in the Holy Scriptures, and it's talked about a lot in spirituality. But there is the spiritual, and then there's the physical, and then we talk about how people have spiritual issues and psychological issues when they have issues with control issues, and as in the human, whether people want to admit it or not, it is a part of our human nature to want to control certain things. Now the question is it toxic in your life, and on what level is it? Are you seeking to control something? Because if people try to deny it and say that they don't want to control anything, then that means that you are a flimsy back individual and you have no backbone. So people want to control different aspects of their life, but of course when we're overdoing anything, it can become very detrimental, destructive, and it can become an issue. It can become a problem. So with the issue of people who are gang stalking or stalking people, they have an issue with self-esteem issues. They have an issue with a control issue. They have an issue with power. They have an issue with, I believe I said jealousy and envy, right? It's a deep-seated resentment and hatred. A lot of times it's because a person may have a hope or a thought of how you should be. This could be in a jealous or resentful parent, a parent who has control issues. It can manifest in family members, siblings, uncles, as I said, parents, friends, it doesn't matter. In the family, the whole jealousy spirit, people who carry a spirit of jealousy, envy, drama, chaos and confusion and manipulation and oxymoronic, hypocritical ways and behaviors. They'll tell you good things and try to charm you and to reel you in just so that they can abuse you, right? Because stalking and gang stalking is abuse, right? But people like to manipulate people who they feel are weak, or they feel that they're vulnerable or gullible, and that they feel that they don't, they have to see you as some kind of weak. Maybe they take your kindness for weakness. A predator and an abuser will always target the ones that they feel are the weaker ones, and they will use, a lot of these people are empaths. They will use your empathy and your kindness, and don't even smile too much, because then they will probably think that you're too nice, or you're sus, or that they'll make a problem out of that, right? There's people who throw around the term narcissist all the time, and I don't want to use that term for that reason. I'm different. I've always been different, and I always want to speak and be different. I don't want to speak and sound like other people, So I don't necessarily want to use the term narcissist. But it's like, people talk about how the empath has to be very mindful and leery of the narcissist, So I think that if you are a victim of gang stalking, first and foremost, it's one thing to recognize and to say, hey, these individuals are trying to victimize me. And even if you feel that way deep in your mind, I want to give a word and to share my energy and to tell you, please do not become a victim. If you are experiencing adversities, especially from someone who is committing violence against you, consistently trying to break you mentally, spiritually, physically, and emotionally, because what happens in the mind and what happens in your day-to-day life and everything that comes with gang stalking, because what they'll do is they'll get people who are the closest to you to turn on you and to start to act in a way that creates hostility, and it breaks up relationships and things, right? So when people are doing that, and if they are dumbfounded or jealous or hateful, or if they are not aware enough to participate in what your enemy or someone who is the opposition who is committing such levels of violence against you consistently, if people who know you and are supposed to love you are doing that to you, then I would advise that you keep your distance. As an empath, if you are one of those very empathic people, or if you're very spiritual, or if you're just a person who, having control and autonomy over your life and mind, and you understand that you are, moving in a world where there are people who have a lust and a thirst for control of you. They have a sick lust to control you. They have a sick lust to know your every move, and a sick lust and thirst to mock you and to try to compromise all of your relationships and your connections, right? Because I'm listening. I very much am listening. And I think that it's one of the most least talked about forms of violence and stalking. And I think that it's one of the most violent forms I think it's one of the most violent things that one can do to someone covertly and subliminally and behind the scenes. Only people who are very dastard in nature and people who are cowards engage in such violent acts, and they don't have the courage to do it in your face and do it to you. And when I recognize that someone is a good soul, right? It doesn't make you a bad person because you may want to defend yourself, or because you don't want to be in connections or relationships with certain people that continue to show you that they are playing on the side of the opposition, or that you don't resonate, or that they're just not good enough, right? And that's okay. It's okay for people to choose who they want to be in their life, especially if you're an adult, right? That is the freedom of being an adult. We can choose who we want in our lives. Do you have the courage to step away and to say, no, I'm not going to play your game. I'm not going to feel obligated because you are my family member, or because you were supposed to be a so-called friend, or because I'm under whatever we have going on, whatever relationship it is, because these relationships come in all forms and fashions, whether that is business, romantic, friendship, platonic, all of these things, and people will try to use what they know about you to use it against you, to try to make you feel bad about yourself, and all of the things that comes with stalking, and more specifically gang stalking, right? You have to not be in that victim mode. Even if you feel victimized in a sense, that should give you more powers so that you can rise up and come out of that, because a lot of people are falling to their demise, and they are really becoming sick, and they're becoming ill. And some of the most, I've heard some really bad things, and it's a very kind of like taboo topic to talk about, because if people are not spiritually aware, they will think that you're crazy. They will think that you need a psych doctor, that you need, that you're off your rocker or your meds, and they won't understand, especially if they're not spiritually tapped in. But there was a lot of women who were going through extreme domestic violence issues, and they were trying to tell people that, hey, I feel like this individual will cause me harm. And people didn't listen, and unfortunately some of those women are not here. Or like for some people who, they didn't listen to the children when the children were telling them that they were being abused, and they didn't listen to them. So it's kind of like that same thing. The only difference is when it comes to stalking and gang stalking, it's a very covert, because people use technology to stalk people, and people use people who are the closest to them to try to affect their lives negatively, to try to engage in psychological warfare, mental warfare, spiritual warfare, emotional warfare. And then people will get online, and then they will, try to continue in a false relationship with people and try to make it seem like they're your friend, or like they're trying to speak life into you, and like they're a spiritual leader, or like they're even qualified, but they're very oxymoronic because they're actually engaging in the same thing that they're talking about. Come on, make it make sense. If you come across this video, just understand that I am making this video because I want to empower you, and I want you to understand that I understand what you mean, and I don't think you crazy. I don't think of you crazy. And I want to empower you to, make sure that you stand in your own personal powers. Make sure that you stand in your own power. And even if you feel a negative way, that as human beings, we are allowed to feel whatever way that we feel that does not feel good. But when we do feel that way, we have to be able to sit in that, feel that, process it, and then let it go. Because if we continue to sit in that, then it will fester and it will eat you alive. If it doesn't, when we talk about discernment, people throw the word discernment around all the time, and they really don't have none. You hear me? Just really feel me when I say. A lot of people throw around the word discernment, and quite frankly, people throw around a lot of words consistently because they want to sound like they know what they're talking about. They want to sound intelligent, or they want to sound smart. And sometimes they don't even have wisdom or life experiences to even, to really teach, right? Or to really get their message across. They just sound good. When it comes to discernment, you have to be able to recognize who is really for you and who is on the opposition, and not be manipulated by people who say, oh, well, if you can't trust anybody, then, then nobody should trust you. It's like, no, how about this? I don't trust you. And how about, people should be able to be vetted, and not should be able to, we should be able to give people the time and space to show us who they are. It's like in the song that I wrote when I said we're at war, I said, make them show you what they made of, the world playing pretend. And that's real, because people would try to appear to be in a certain type of position, as if they have credentials for certain things. But the things that they are preaching about, they are doing the absolute opposite of that. Or whatever it is that they're doing it's proving that they are an oxymoron, right? So it's hard for people to really engage with people and give them credit when you're dealing with someone who is supposed to be of some type of level, of a high level, or some type of prominence, but you can see right through them, and you can tell that they're an oxymoron through and through, right? That's one. Two, obviously it's going to be the way that people speak, the things that they say, the things, people talk about when it comes to discernment, one of the biggest clues of discerning whether someone is playing for the opposition or is your opposition is some of the things that they say. And some people say that they will be in conversations with people and they'll say things that no one should ever know, but people would know. And then it's like they're doing that because they're trying to handle you. Again, they're trying to control you. But then also they want to make you feel small, or they want to try to play with you, but they want your attention. And that's another thing. We have to be very mindful and careful about how we are expending our attention, what we are giving our attention and energy to. Because, if you're making a video about someone who is stalking you, and then you're talking about like how it affects you, then just that right there, they'll be getting off because they'll feel like, oh, I'm affecting that person, and I'm getting their energy because they're talking about me, right? It's really, really sick. It's like the same people who will try to tell you how to take care of yourself, mentally, emotionally, or they'll some people will even try to bring up your flaws and talk about all of these negative things, but they are playing for the opposition, or they are doing things that will affect you negatively. So you have to be very discerning of the spirit of an oxymoron, right? They want to feel like they have one up on you by saying certain things that you did not tell them, or that one would not know, right? I mean, at least that's what one of the brothers said in one of the videos. I think that it's pretty sickening, and that's why I'm talking about it right now. But as people know, people that know Queen Bree know what I've been doing for a very long time, for a lot of years, and I've always been in this protector energy. And people know that there are 3 things that I completely despise. That is a liar, a thief, and I hate bullies. I genuinely resent and despise bullies. So I've confronted the bullies, at a certain time in my life when I was at a very young age. And then, over the years, I have had to confront a lot of people for a lot of things. Now, people also know that I'm a Libra, so I'm non-confrontational. I don't like problems. I don't like drama. I don't like negativity, but I'm also not a doormat. And again, I resent bullies. So when people try to use violence against you by stalking you or trying to pump fear in you, when they're trying to intimidate you because they feel like they're on whatever level, hopefully you're standing in your power and you're not showing them any level of fear. I don't care who it is. I don't care if it's the president of the country or if it's a peasant, right? Because the devil comes in many forms. The opposition comes in many forms, even in the form of a family member, in the form of an associate, of a so-called friend. A foe is more trusting than all of them because at least they know and they're telling you who they are. Or if it's a person online who claims to be a spiritual leader, right? Or if it's other people online. The whole gossiping aspect, the I want to control, the I want to have one up, and I want to keep you down because I see your potential. Oh, it gets real nasty. And you better believe that a lot of people who engage in these very suspicious and very trash and very concerning and suspicious acts, they don't love themselves. They hate themselves. How could you love yourself and you consistently show another individual that you hate them, or you're trying to affect their relationships and their lifestyle and their livelihood and everything? And you call yourself a stand-up individual, you call yourself a good person? That's not evil. You are a woman of God. You are a man of God. You are continuously trying. You have and live with the intentions to do righteous. You have to stand in your power, stand in your purpose. You keeping your purpose in mind and living in servitude is what's going to help feed you in your soul. It's going to help you to continue to go in the direction that the Most High would have you to go in. And let me not start to preaching, but this is just the wisdom of what I believe. This is what I would offer to you. For those of you who experience violence in different ways. It's one thing to experience physical violence and you can, step away and you can leave that situation. But when everywhere you go, these people are talking about how people are gang stalking them. Hopefully you have the courage to defend yourself if someone shall ever want to develop the courage or the cojones to really live out what it is that they're trying to do as far as trying to intimidate you and affect your life negatively. Because it's very much a coward and dastard way of being, which a lot of us who are women and men under God, who follows, a higher power, we cannot relate to that. We can't relate to a lot of ways and the things that they are at all. And they'll call themselves upper echelons or the elites. They ain't shit. I mean, they absolutely ain't shit. Some of these people, they can have millions and billions of dollars. Does that mean that they're better than you? These people talked about some of these people in higher positions of power. And that's why I just stated the things that I just previously said. They said that these people are people who are in high positions of power. So they want to try to keep their foot on your neck. They want you to believe that they are more powerful and bigger than you. Tell them to come get some. Okay, everybody's not a fighter, right? Everybody's not a fighter in the spiritual or the physical. But you got to stand on something in this time. There's so many things that wants to affect you, that wants to break you. You have to be able to stand on something. That's why I said in one of the previous uploads that I made, I asked, I said, what are you standing on? Because you best believe that there's always somebody that's going to be hating on you if they feel like you're better in whatever way, because they carry a deep-seated self-hatred, jealousy, and envy. Or they feel you're boisterous, or you're bragging, or you're doing good. She thinks she's something, or he thinks he's something. It's like, bro, what's wrong? You got a mental illness. You need a psychotherapist, a psychoanalyst, or you need a psychiatrist. These are things that goes untreated. If you are experiencing that, and a person resents you or dislike you that much, the way that I was raised is you leave them alone. You peace out, deuces. I won't deal with you. I never have to speak with you or deal with you another day in your life. But people who have a lust for power and control, they can't leave you alone. Am I right or am I right? If you come across this video and you're one of the people who I came across your video, please feel free and open to comment on my video. I'm making this video for you. This is a safe space for you. You can feel free to comment and be as vulnerable as you want to be. You can feel very free to share with myself and the community how you feel, what your experience is. I want you to be empowered. I want you to figure out what it is that your purpose is, and whether or not you know that, to figure that out, and then to focus on yourself, and then obviously to build that and to grow that. Some people say, when it comes to brothers and sisters, for example, in the community, they say, it's hard to do, serve people in the community and to build strong, lasting, longevity relationships with people who look like you, because those are the same people who has abused them and the same people who has done so bad to them. And you know what I would say to that, after what I've learned in all of my years? I love people that look like me, and I have a deep love for black people. But if I am dealing with people, or if I am in the space of people that don't make me feel good, that's the first indicator. I'm going to peace out and I'm going to go somewhere else. I'm going to go around people and be around people that make me feel warm, that makes me feel welcome, that makes me feel happy, that makes me feel loved. And always remember that, you can't change the family that you were born in. People who maybe you don't consider them family, but you consider them relatives. You maybe can't change that, but you can change how you interact. You can feed them with a long handled spoon, in my mother's voice, rest her soul. Or you can just, you can peacefully keep your distance. Protecting your energy, there's nothing wrong with that. It's called spiritual maturity. There's a such thing as spiritual maturity, and a lot of people don't have it. Shout out to she's Sister Iyanla Van Zant, but she's a little bit up there in age, so I'll say Auntie Iyanla Van Zant. She's absolutely amazing, but I've seen a couple of her videos, and it's called something like spiritual hygiene, and that's like a little bit along the lines of what I'm talking about. Being mindful of your energy, protecting your energy, and the whole spiritual maturity thing. A part of having spiritual hygiene and being aware of your energy and all of those things. And we're human. We can definitely forget. But, having spiritual hygiene is also a level of spiritual maturity. We're not living in a time where there's a lot of people who are mature. That's why a lot of things are kept from a lot of communities, because if you reveal certain things to them, they will lose their minds. Or they'll say that you're crazy and that you're losing your mind. Everything is not to be shared, especially online. So we have to be very careful with that. Discerning who is for you and who is not. What are they trying to gesture? What are they trying to make you feel like, they're more powerful than you, or they have one up? A lot of times it's with a gesture, because people come in the form of a big lie, but they're oxymoronic again, so they'll call you the lie, right? But I mean, you don't have to prove anything to anyone as long as you know who you are. And that's why it's very important to know who you are in this time. You don't have to prove anything to anyone. Some people will say that you're not being authentic because you like certain things. It could be aesthetics, or your energy may be a certain type of way they can't resonate with. You don't owe the world anything. But what I think that will be very much of servitude to yourself is being of servitude to people that you feel that you can reciprocate, that energy and those efforts will be reciprocated. Because nothing hurts more than trying to show blatant love and love up front to a person or people, right? And that love is not being reciprocated. And if you feel that it is compromised, that someone is sus, or you feel like it is fake, it is not your obligation to engage, even if it's your family. And why would you want to have relationships with people who gang stalk you? Right? So I hope you find that strength and that power within yourself. Be strong. Be very strong. Because people feed off of some of the most mentally ill things, and you would have to wonder, like, they really feel as though there's some type of goodness there, righteousness, right? They'll make up every excuse in the world as to why they are being offensive to you, or why they are doing what they're doing, instead of just saying that maybe they have a mental illness that they need to go get checked out, because stalking is a mental illness. And everybody who has the likeness and the unconsciousness, right? Because that's very unconscious behavior. And the things that they speak, they call them, some of the brothers that I've heard talking about this, they call them doppelgangers. And I laugh inside, because I'm like, that is so funny. You could look up what a doppelganger is. But there's just so many different things, right? How they are puppeted and how they are controlled by your opposition. I mean, it gets completely insane. It's completely psychotic. So how are you doing mentally? How are you doing mentally? Hopefully you are doing well. If you come across this video and you can deeply resonate with it, or some of the things that I am talking about you resonate with, hopefully you are standing in your purpose, or just standing in your power if you don't know what your purpose is. Sometimes it takes us a long time to figure out what our purpose is, but sometimes one of the main things that I deeply believe in my heart is that a part of our purpose of, coming into this incarnation and being in this world is to help each other and to be of servitude to one another. Now, if people ask me, well, Queen Bree, what makes you happy? There's so many things that make me happy. But one of the things that makes me happy is being of servitude to the community, and to, obviously where it's going to be appreciated. It feels good when you are appreciated. So I think that you should try that. If you're not already trying that, if if you're in a church and you have a church home, I can imagine that you probably already are, doing service things in your church. But if you're not, I think that will be a great thing to do. Do service in your church. Try to find, different events in the community where you can serve the community. Feeding the homeless is one of the most common things that people do globally. Feeding the homeless, clothing the homeless, giving hygienic products, helping women and children. These are things that will bring great joy to my heart, aside from the things that I have already done and continue to do to be of servitude in the community. These are things that I've prayed for. So hopefully you're not becoming discouraged, right? Because when that spirit of discouragement, and when the enemy wants to pump fear or anger or lower your energy, they will always try to affect your life negatively. So just always making it your intention to stay in a high vibe. If you can't be happy, and I always say this, if you can't be in a high vibe or energy of happiness, and you're not feeling love and you're not feeling joy, just be grateful. And you might say, well, Queen Bree, be grateful for what? Be grateful that you can breathe, because not too long ago, there was a lot of people that was just on ventilators. And have you ever ran so much and so hard? Oh my God, speaking of so long and so hard, I've been speaking for, oh my God, I've been talking for 34 minutes, and I'm supposed to be in the gym, but it's all good because I have the time today. Ashe, thank you, God. You've been running so long and so hard, you get out of breath, right? So you know how that feel, right? You know how you feel the tightness in your chest, you know? And the more that you run, or the more that you exert yourself and you do those high interval trainings or high intensity interval trainings, it gets harder to breathe, or you know that you're pushing yourself, which can be really good for your heart as long as you're not overdoing it to where you're going to injure yourself. But that's the example that I'm giving, because just not too long ago, there was a lot of people talking about that they couldn't breathe. And I know for different reasons how that feel. And then there was a lot of people who were put on ventilators. So have you ever felt a way where you felt like you didn't have control over a certain situation that you felt like you should? So just being grateful for the small things is all that I'm trying to say. And there's so many different things that you can just be grateful for. If you can't find the love energy, or the joy energy, or the abundance energy, or the prosperity energy, or the happiness, it will come, right? But we have to be honest. We can feel the love and we can feel the joy, but you know, all of the lower energies is also a part of this experience. So understand that compassion, self-compassion is a very much needed thing in this time. It's very important, especially if people are trying to isolate you, or they're trying to, you know, demonize you or make you seem like you're the villain. If you are living righteously and you are doing what you feel as though God called you to do, and you're not hurting anybody, and they want to make you feel like the villain, well, welcome to your villain era, baby. Welcome to your villain era, boo. It's as simple as that. Because there is a thick energy of manipulation, and when a person feels like that you are a victim, or they can victimize you, they will try to manipulate you and play you to a bus stop. So understand this. As long as you know that you live with integrity, and you know that your intentions are good, then you just got to keep it pushing. And if people want to manipulate the defense, you being in defense of yourself, you know, I'll give you an example. It's like what everybody is talking about. And hopefully if she ever comes across this, she doesn't, you know, take me wrong. But shout out to Miss Christina, or Christine, I believe, Christine Wansley Wells, or Christine Wells, the beautiful young brother Nolan Wells' mother. We know, a lot of us know that we've been hearing time and time again that there is some coward individuals who are sending her many threats, and they're saying negative things. And it's like, how dare you, when, you know, she is grieving. There are people with no hearts, they have no souls, they don't feel pain, and they you know, they're not the likeness of the Most High, you know. So people try to demonize her and villainize her, and all she wants to do is heal. All she wants to do is grieve and to heal the passing of her son, and obviously to get answers. I hope that sister gets everything that is desirable to her, and everything that the Most High will have for her in this time. And I hope that God continues to protect her and her family, and that she will have everything that not only she needs, but she will want. And I hope that it becomes quadrupled, because people are disgusting. They're completely disgusting. And they should be in a mental institution. They really should be in a mental institution. So God bless their family. And God bless, you know, I always say, I've been saying God bless the soul of Nolan. That story, man, it's hard to even talk about. I literally had to turn off social media, right? But this is the day and time that we're living in. We are living amongst, there's like devils spread it out in different places, and everybody thinks that it's a game until the bad things come to their door and happen to them. But why is it that the bad things always happen to the good people, right? And then it's completely crazy, absolutely crazy, you know. But as far as I can see, and as far as the community can see, this woman is a productive member of society. She's going to work and she's a good person. Her community vouches for that. They say that she's a good person. They enjoy being around her and her energy, and talks about how good her son was and things, but they would try to villainize her. is very wicked, and that is what you call evil. So, you know, hopefully people are finding things to do. If you are experiencing this, hopefully you're finding things to do. Hopefully you are staying busy, and that you are not numbing, because it does something to the nervous system. And I can do another video about that. You know, if you feel anxious, you know, I don't feel as though you're just anxious. Maybe you're under attack in these moments. If you're feeling like you're depressed, maybe you're not depressed. It could be your circle, it could be your environment. And numbing is not the answer, you know? And having the courage to say no. And even if you don't say no, if you create a distance, you peacefully decline, you create a distance, that's also fine. That's protecting your peace. Oh my God, everything that I'm saying, a lot of what I'm saying, I'm talking about, I said in some lyrics in my song. And I don't know if I can absolutely remember these particular lines or bars that I said, but I said something like, I can't be in a company of no fake friend. I call it self-love. They call it suffering. No deception in my presence, no risky energy or revenge. Rebuking the enemy and the energy that I rescind. They want to be comatose, devoted to all the trashy trends, keeping my mind busy, making sure I'm good in the end. Always been different, quite eccentric, not trying to fit in. Never a loss. They pay the cost of being puppeted. So a lot of these people... A lot of these people who are so-called stalking you, or gang stalkers, they're puppets, and they reproduce children that act just like them. So hopefully you are rising, and you are rising above all of the fuckery, because that's what it is. And that you are, you know, being always just rising in righteousness and your sacred and divine nature, better than your enemy. Because at the end of the day, they already feel that you're better. But then literally, because of the things that they do, the fabric of their basura DNA, you are better than them. And it doesn't matter if someone dropped the whole world in their hands. If they operate in that way, you're just better than them. And they know that. And that's one of the reasons why they will gang stalk you and try to commit such violence against you. But in a very coward and dastard way. So hopefully, you know, you are resisting the devil. Resisting the temptation of whatever, you know, negatively will come up, and just rising above that and continuing to live out your purpose and to be in servitude. Do the things that make you happy. Do the things that make you happy. If you feel like a victim, or you feel bad, or you feel negative, feel that, and then let it go. Let it go. Rise above it, and just be happy, be joyful, or just live in gratitude. And, you know, have much tranquility and much ashe. I'll tap in soon.